FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
IPMNation.com.
Welcome, everybody. Matt Connarton Unleashed. We're live June 23rd, 2016. From the Uptown Auto Repair Studio, of course. Coming to you live 5 nights a week at 11 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation 2. And, of course, Tuesdays and Thursday nights, we're also on OMTimes Radio. OTR FM, the premium channel on OMTimes Radio specifically. And we have the television edition of Unleashed, which you can hear Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. That is up right now. In fact, this week's television edition on our IPM Nation YouTube and Vimeo channels, so you can watch them at your leisure. My voice is actually, it's a little bit better than it was 10 minutes ago. I took a hit off an inhaler, so forgive me if I'm a little scratchy. Basically, I'm not technically. I don't have a cold or anything. I just those of you in this part of the country where I am in Manchester, New Hampshire, might know that the pollen count has been very, very high lately, and the rain, which washes away the pollen, has been very, very scarce. I haven't had much rain. So as a result, it's been really kind of kicking my ass. As much as I love this time of year, and I do, summer is by far my favorite season. Always has been. I've always loved summer. But the one thing about summer that can be a little bit of a drag is the allergies. And this year it's especially bad with the pollen situation. So what I'm going to do is I do have some pretty interesting audio to play for you tonight. I have a few things queued up, and I might no, it's not all rightwingwatch.org, although I'm sure I'll find something on there too. But I might, if you'll forgive me, I might lean a little bit heavier on playing some audio clips and just commenting on them, of course. Then I might do that a little more than usual tonight, because I'm just it's funny. This has never happened to me before. I earlier tonight was recording another show that I do on IPM Nation called Local Outbreak, and it focuses on New Hampshire-based musicians, which is where we are in New Hampshire here. And during the interview, I had a coughing fit right in the middle of it, which I'm going to have to edit out. I don't think that had ever happened to me before. So it's just like all of a sudden it was as though I just swallowed a mouthful of pollen and it was caught in my throat. It was terrible. So anyway, but could be worse. Could be much, much worse. So it's no big deal. But I feel better. I felt pretty run down earlier. I feel better, but again, my throat is not clearly, as you can tell from my voice, I'm not at full power. Let's see. Of course, I do want to remind you, we do broadcast from the Uptown Auto Repair Studio in Manchester, New Hampshire. The show and IPM Nation, the live station, is powered by Ambit Energy. If you want to learn how to save on your energy bills, go to ipmnation.ambitrabbit.com. You could be on your way to free energy. And, of course, we are sponsored by the Mortgage Specialists. So if you're in the market for buying a home, like I say, it's probably the biggest purchase you'll ever make. Go to themortgagespecialists.com. You can schedule a consultation with those good folks, and they will help you with that. You'll be glad that you did that. Let's see. I do have a phone line open, and certainly, especially tonight, would welcome the calls because, again, that's less that I have to talk. 617-917. 4IPM is the number. IPM, of course, as in IPM Nation, or 617-917-4476. You can also text at that same number if you're too shy to call. We do have the chat room at ipmnation.com/live2. You can click the chat tab on the far right of your screen if you are there listening on that page. Let's see. Of course, you can tweet me anytime at Matt Connarton, and you can post on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. Let's see. Before we go any further, I'm going to play. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to play this. This is from MSN, some news that Jen found earlier, and it's a couple of minutes, but more bad news for Trump. I'm going to play this audio again. This is from news from MSN about the more than 50 business executives, including some longtime Republicans, who are endorsing. I'll give you a hint. It's not Trump, nor, unfortunately, sadly, is it Gary Johnson. So here it is.
Just like he shouldn't have his finger on the button, he shouldn't have his hands on our economy.
Hillary Clinton's campaign is cashing in on some unease among the business community with Republican Donald Trump. More than 50 business executives are endorsing the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee. Among them are several who have a history of supporting Republicans. They include AT&T Senior Executive Vice President Jim Cecconi. In a statement put out by the Clinton campaign, Cecconi, who worked in the White House for Republican Presidents Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush, says while he has supported every Republican presidential candidate since 1976, I think it's vital to put our country's well-being ahead of party. And went on to say, the alternative, I fear, would set our nation on a very dark path. Another is former General Motors and Nextel CEO Dan Akerson, who says he has consistently voted for Republicans for president, but said in a statement also released by the Clinton campaign, serving as the leader of the free world requires effective leadership, sound judgment, a steady hand, and most importantly, the temperament to deal with crises large and small. Donald Trump lacks each of these characteristics. The list of business leaders behind the former Secretary of State also includes those who have supported Democrats in the past. Alphabet Executive Chairman Eric Schmidt, Sheryl Sandberg, COO of Facebook, and Berkshire Hathaway CEO Warren Buffett among them. Others endorsing Clinton include IAC Interactive Corp's Barry Diller, Netflix CEO Reed Hastings, Corning CEO Wendell Weeks, and Mark Benioff, CEO of Salesforce.
Wow, what a group.
But the presumptive GOP nominee is also making efforts to shore up support among wealthy business leaders. This week, Trump attended events attended by hedge fund manager John Paulson and New York Jets owner Woody Johnson. For Clinton, the support of a bipartisan group of influential business executives comes as she enjoys a significant fundraising advantage over Trump. At the end of May, Clinton had $42 million on hand, compared to $1.3 million for Trump. But since then, the Wall Street Journal has learned Trump has raised at least $19 million for his joint fund with the Republican National Committee and $3 million for his own campaign.
So there you have it. That's from the video, actually, is from the Wall Street Journal. Now, that was an interesting tidbit at the end, by the way, about fundraising. You know, it had been widely reported, of course, that Hillary had been outraising Trump by a 40-to-1 ratio. But it sounds like there is money coming in as far as Trump's joint fundraising with the Republicans that I didn't know about, $19 million, which is significant, but it's still, even if you add that into the pot, it's still less than half of what Hillary has raised, which means, you know, I mean, I'm sorry, but that is a very significant factor in who's going to win this election. And I'm telling you now, it's already over. But this is, I mean, this news of all these business leaders, some of them prominent Republicans, that is devastating for Trump. Some people think endorsements don't mean much. I tend to think endorsements don't mean much. But I think it's an exception in this case because part of Trump's whole thing is, hey, come on, I'm a businessman. I'm a great businessman. So of course I know how to run I know how to fix the economy and negotiate trade deals and all this. I don't know if Trump is a great businessman. Why is he a great businessman? What makes him a great businessman? Because he's rich? Hate to tell you, but he was born rich. And I don't hold that against him, by the way, because sometimes people will make comments like that, and then someone else will say, oh, you're just saying that because you hate rich people and class warfare and all this nonsense. No, I'm just making an observation. I don't begrudge him that. You know, he won the genetic lottery and was born with a very rich father. You know, but how great a businessman, if you're born rich, how great a businessman do you need to be to stay rich? You know, I don't know. I mean, is he a great businessman because he didn't somehow lose it all? Or is he just an okay businessman because he managed to hold on to it and I guess makes him, I mean, I'll tell you what, he's great at, you know what he is great at? And I mean this, no sarcasm here. I mean this legitimately. He is fantastic at marketing himself. I mean, that there's no doubt about that. How many other real estate moguls can you name who also managed to become mainstream celebrities and even have a hit television show like The Apprentice? How many other real estate moguls can you say that about? I can't think of a single one. I mean, he's done a masterful job of marketing himself and you know, being a celebrity, turning himself into a celebrity and all that. But to say, well, he's made a lot of money. He'll tell you, he says it all the time. I made a lot of money. Well, he's also lost a lot of money. So I don't know. And I don't know enough to say one way or the other. Is he a great businessman? I don't know. But I think it's questionable. We'll be right back. More Unleashed coming up.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Healing Light, on OMTimes Radio every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Healing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Welcome back. Matt Connarton Unleashed. We're live on IPM Nation 2 and OTR FM. So I have some audio to play for you. This is from the Rachel Maddow show. And, of course, I realize that anyone who listens to this program who happens to be a conservative probably just clicked me off because Rachel Maddow is someone who Republicans hate probably about as much as they hate Hillary Clinton. I mean, not on the same scale, obviously, but in terms of in kind, if not degree, as John Hopwood likes to say. And I understand. I mean, Rachel Maddow is very much a hard left Northeastern liberal. But back when, we kind of cut the cord, but when I used to watch a lot of cable news, I used to watch her show sometimes on MSNBC, because even though I disagree with her on many things, because I'm not, I mean, I do have some liberal positions, but I also, I'm more of a libertarian than anything. So there's some things where I disagree with liberals, like on guns, for example, and the whole sit-in with the Democrats did and whatnot on that. But I think that she and her show are really, really deft at breaking things down and thoroughly explaining them and really investigating, doing some real investigative journalism. And I found this from a couple of nights ago on her show. This video is titled "Donald Trump's Campaign, a Cover for Money-Making Scheme." And in this video, Rachel breaks down the same thing I've been saying, and that's why I keep playing this audio from other people who have also figured it out. It's all a con. And like I told you, I'm going to lean a little heavily on the pre-recorded audio tonight because my voice is, I'm struggling a little bit with that. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, but listen to this. This really breaks it down for you. This is from Rachel Maddow's show on MSNBC.
The show. We reported on the new financial documents that the Donald Trump for President campaign had just reported to the FEC. And we got it was a little embarrassing. We got those numbers when I was live on the air, and I really we didn't have time, like as a staff, to process them. I just read them from the raw report right after that raw report was posted on the FEC website while we were live on the air. And I will tell you honestly, the reason I'm furrowing my brow in that footage you can see there is because while I was doing that breaking news story, I felt like maybe I had gotten it wrong. I felt like there was maybe a typo or a misunderstanding, or maybe my vision's going because I'm an old person now and I couldn't see a decimal point that I should have been expecting. It just seemed impossible that the Republican presidential nominee would have started the month of June with only $1 million cash on hand. That is a remarkably low number for any stage of any serious presidential race. I mean, for the month of May, that number is still, even in the light of day, almost impossible to believe. Think about it. Donald Trump wrapped up the Republican nomination in the first week of May. He won Indiana on May 3rd, and all of his opponents dropped out. He wrapped up the nomination on the third day of the month. That means he had the whole rest of the month with no Republican primary to worry about. The only thing he had to do the whole month was start socking away money and preparing for the general election campaign against Hillary Clinton. And he ended that whole month with $1 million. The cash on hand numbers from the Donald Trump campaign that came in at the end of the show last night, those numbers were very hard to believe. But now, over the course of today, we've been able to go through not just his cash on hand numbers and his fundraising numbers, but also his spending numbers. And those are also amazing, but they tell a very different story. And we should probably not see them as so surprising because we've seen something like this before. Over the course of the month of May, the Trump campaign spent a total of $6.7 million. More than $1 million of that was spent paying money to Donald Trump's own companies and to members of his family. And that is apparently nothing new for the Donald Trump for President effort. We now know that that pattern has basically held for the entire Trump campaign so far. If you want to look at the entire course of his campaign, the Washington Post and the Associated Press today totaled up over $60 million that has been spent by the Trump campaign. More than $6 million of that, so roughly $1 in $10 spent in total on the campaign, more than $6 million of that has been spent buying stuff from Donald Trump. He has spent an incredible proportion of his campaign funds writing, for example, rent checks to himself for use of his own properties. He paid the Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, Florida, $29,715. He paid the Trump National Golf Club in Jupiter, Florida, $35,845. You know, when Donald Trump lives in Florida, the place he lives is a golf club called Mar-a-Lago. That is Donald Trump's house in Florida. His campaign paid over $400,000 to Donald Trump for use of his own house. He paid himself $400,000 for the privilege of using his own home. He paid $520,000 to Trump Tower, which is his home in New York. He paid $135,000 to Trump restaurants. That's a lot of taco bowls. He paid $26,000 to the Trump National Doral, which is his golf course in Miami. He paid $11,000 to his Trump Hotel in Chicago. He has paid himself over $4 million for the privilege of renting his own private jet. The Trump Plaza, $99,000. The Trump Post Office, which is his hotel in Washington that's not yet built, $5,000. Trump Soho, just under $5,000. He paid his son's Trump Wine Company just under $5,000. He spent campaign money on the Trump Grill, on Trump Ice. Trump Ice is a thing. He spent Trump money at the Trump Cafe. And part of the mainstream Republican beef with this data, right, with what we now know about how the Trump campaign is operating, is that these are not the kinds of expenditures you would expect to see from someone who's actually running a campaign for president that intends to win the presidency. I mean, the expenses, when you look at what the Trump campaign is actually spending its money on, what they're actually spending their time doing, it's more like a concert tour. It's more like a promotional tour for a celebrity who's hawking something than it is like a campaign where you need people to go out and vote for you in November. I mean, the biggest expenses are private jets, renting out venues, preferably ones where Mr. Trump gets to pay rent to himself for using that venue, and also swag. You know, you go to a concert, there's the swag table. Merchandise is what the Trump campaign is spending its money on. Millions of dollars spent on Trump T-shirts and especially Trump hats. Oh, the hats. Reading through the list of Trump expenditures, I half expected to find that there was now a Trump hat company that they had formed in order to cash in on all the hat spending the Trump campaign has indulged in over the past year. In fact, there is no Trump hat company, but there is this nice lady who sits on the board of Eric Trump's charitable foundation. She also happens to run the hat company, getting all those millions of dollars in Trump campaign expenditures. So the polite way to say this is it's a racket. It's not designed to necessarily win the election. I don't know if it would be necessarily a problem to win the election. Think about the merchandising opportunities in the Oval Office. But if he does end up winning, you can tell from the way the campaign is being run. And you can tell because we've seen lots of campaigns like this before, you can tell that winning might happen, but it's not the aim. It would be a byproduct of what is the principal effort, which is to make money. Donald Trump is not the first person to do this. This is what Newt Gingrich did in 2012. Frankly, it's easier to do on the Republican side because of the monetizing of Republican and conservative political celebrity, thanks to Fox News and lots of scammy right-wing media outlets in this country. That's part of the reason that Republican presidential fields are so big these days. I defy you to tell me what the job is of Rick Santorum. What is his job, other than running for president? Or what's Herman Cain's job? What's Michelle Bachmann's job? What's Mike Huckabee's job? They're all either making a living running for president, or they're making a living thereafter off the fact that they did run for president once, and therefore you've heard of them. It's a racket. The real question for the country, I mean, that's a question for the conservative movement, the Republican Party, and conservative media, right? Like, what have we created? A weird system of incentives where people appear to run for office, but mostly they run for office as a job because it helps them make merchandising money and get deals on Fox News, right? I mean, that's an issue for the Republican Party, the conservative movement, conservative media in general. Put that aside. The real question for the rest of us, for the country, is whether what we're now looking at on the presidential level, now that one of these guys is their nominee, the real question for the country is whether this book tour, this promotional tour for this political celebrity might accidentally produce a presidential candidacy that can actually win. And that remains to be seen. But honestly, these new spending numbers put to rest any question that what we are witnessing is anything other than a promotional book tour, which we should have realized from the very beginning, because this is what it sounded like from the very beginning.
President Obama, Secretary Kerry, I highly think you should read this book quickly. Quickly!
Did you ever see a negotiation last so long? Right? Oh, he's got the order. Hold that book up, please. Okay. One of the great books.
I wrote The Art of the Deal. I wrote many bestsellers like The Art of the Deal. Everybody read The Art. Who has read The Art of the Deal in this room? Everybody. I always say, a deep second to the Bible. The Bible is the best, the Bible.
And I've done great things. Hey, look, I went into television, had The Apprentice. Great hit. One of the most successful reality shows, right? I did books, many bestsellers, many. The Art of the Deal is one of the biggest selling, certainly the biggest selling business book of all time, by far.
Oh, look, The Art of the Deal. Come here, give me that book. I love that book.
We should have known from the beginning when Donald Trump was hawking one of his business books at all of his campaign appearances from the very, very start of his presidential campaign. Since then, he's come out with another book that he's been selling openly on the campaign trail, the one with the scowling picture on the front, Crippled America. There are also now, and I may be breaking this news right now, but there are unconfirmed reports, but there are reports that there is either an Art of the Deal 2.0 that's in the works right now, that's in production right now, or that Mr. Trump is somehow repackaging the original Art of the Deal, again, as a special campaign edition, so he can literally cash in even further during this campaign.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to...
Hey, okay, we're back. I didn't mean to play the little MSNBC ad at the end. They're not giving us any money, so it's enough that I play the clip from the show. I didn't know that was on there. Anyway, yeah, I had the mic down, but I was laughing out loud when Rachel said, by the way, what is Rick Santorum's job anyway? But, you know, she what was interesting, too, about what she was saying about these people running for president, I've often referred to on the show Newt Gingrich being a great example. I don't think she mentioned Gingrich. Newt Gingrich is probably the single greatest example of this phenomenon she was talking about these Republicans running for president, really for business reasons, not to actually win an election. Because Newt Gingrich in 2012, when he was running, his campaign stops literally were book tours, were book signings. He and his wife, Callista, they're very prolific. They've written a lot of books and produced documentaries and whatnot. And that's what his campaign stops were. I don't know if he gave a single speech at a podium when he ran in 2012. I think it was all just book signings. And so it's a business. All right, we'll be right back. More Unleashed coming up.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hi, this is Sylvia Henderson, intuitive life coach and energy healer. Are you ready to elevate and rise way above your normal? Be sure to listen to my show, Intuitive Transformations, on OMTimes Radio, Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Get the inspiration you need to transform your life.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Some more audio for you if you're joining us late. I'm leaning a little heavily on pre-recorded audio tonight because my throat's bothering me with my allergies. But I've got another clip. This one is from the Young Turks. This is titled "Trump Paid Don Draper for What?" This is another good. Some more good information for you here, explained by some folks who do, like Rachel Maddow, does a great job of explaining this stuff and really digging into it. more interesting information regarding the finances of the Trump campaign. And part of why I'm playing this too is to just kind of show everybody who thinks I'm wrong about my theories about Trump and whatnot. Look, the stuff I've been saying for a while, other media is also saying it and pointing this out. And all of you Trump supporters, again, I have a lot of good friends, people I care about who are Trump supporters, but you've all been conned. And this particular clip from the Young Turks partially deals with Corey Lewandowski and how he kind of figures his recent dismissal, how that may figure into some of what's going on with the Trump campaign's finances. But all right, here's this clip. This is a few minutes.
The limited money that Trump has so far raised during his incipient general election campaign has gone to a number of different shady sources, we're finding out through FEC filings. But one in particular is crying out for an explanation, and media sources and reporters have been scrambling all day to figure out what is going on with this. So the Trump campaign paid $35,000 for web advertising to something called Draper Sterling.
Oh, come on, dude.
Now, I don't watch Mad Men, but people tell me that that's a suspicious name.
Yeah. Who names their company after something obviously fictional? Why don't you just name it Red Flag?
Yeah. No, I have
Red Flag Incorporated.
Records.
You might want to look into this company. Right. It's like running a security company and calling it the Unsullied.
Red Herring Savings and Loan. No, that's a stupid idea.
Because if you're going to charge people for political campaigns using that company, it's going to go into official filings. And when it does, we all get to look through it. When we see Draper Sterling, we go, wait a minute, that's a fictional company out of Mad Men. I should look further.
We should. And so people have. And it turns out that it is actually a real company, sort of. It's a registered company, which makes you again wonder why you wouldn't just name it Two Trees Advertising. Make up a name. Just look at an object in your room and call it that. Call it Milk-Bone Advertising.
Shiny Desk Advertising. We're here to serve you guys.
Yeah, the shiniest ads delivered to your desk. And so people have been trying to track it down. They found the place where it's registered. And it's in a high-rise. It looks like this, actually. They have a picture of it. Sorry, that's just a little house. In Londonderry, New Hampshire. So Judd Legum tracked that down. This is the address listed. And so Draper Sterling was registered with the state in New Hampshire in March to a guy named John Adkins, who co-founded a medical device company called Xenotherapeutics with Paul Holzer, a Dartmouth medical student. Holzer used Adkins' home address for another payment from the Trump campaign back in May. So there's these two individuals who are sort of tied in with Republican strategy, who are apparently making money that's going directly to their home. Suspiciously, at the same time, Londonderry is next to Windham, where Trump's freshly fired campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, is based. So just one town over, suspiciously, in New Hampshire, which we know is ground zero for Trumpdom across America. Suspiciously, Lewandowski lives right next door. Weird how that works out.
We still want the money, Lewandowski.
We thought you'd be happy with that.
Yes, okay. So now, we then find out that the Trump campaign is doing an audit of the money that Corey Lewandowski spent. Uh-oh. Now, this could have been worse. It was originally reported before we found out about the Holster and all the other guys who are doing shenanigans. People were wondering, hey, is this Lewandowski's just sending it to his aunt in New Hampshire? Yeah. Now, that does not appear to be the case. So it's these other shady guys. But they're going to have to figure out how to explain the money that was spent. Mm-hmm. And right now, it doesn't look that good.
It doesn't look that good, yeah. Yeah, and we've got a little bit more money info on some of the other expenses. But again, as these weird, unnecessary, totally unnecessary scandals keep popping up, just be reminded, this is the guy who said he knows how to manage people. He knows how to choose people. He is the natural leader who has managed groups of people. He can't even manage his tiny... There are almost as many people in this room as we're filming as work for his campaign. And he can't even manage that. You can pack him into one VW bus, and he can't actually manage it. Now, people also went to the house and talked to some of the people there. Some of them denied ever having heard of the Draper Sterling. Others said, I know what it is, but I'm not saying anything about it, which was, of course, suspicious. And then if we can jump ahead, some of the other expenses, unless you still want to talk about Draper Sterling.
I do want to say one more thing. There was one, and Judd Luckman's Think Progress did a great job on this investigating. So there was one expenditure that was very hard to explain. So now, look, give them an opportunity. Let's see if they can figure out how they theoretically spent that money. But again, if you're going to do these shenanigans, and now people are saying Holster has run a couple of these things, let's look into it. Mm-hmm. Let's figure out what they did and didn't do, right? But don't name it after a fictional group that's obviously going to create a red flag. I mean, I don't want to do a public service announcement for scam artists. Yeah. But to be fair to them, when they were reached, they said, "No, I'm sorry, you got our last name wrong. It's the Lannisters, and don't worry, we always pay our debts." So
I was literally just thinking, best case scenario, it turns out he's a nerd who loves Mad Men. Like, I would start up like Knights of the Vale Media or something. Maybe he's just a dork.
Right. But as you see, this is not an isolated incident with the Trump campaign, because, John, tell us where some of those expenses might be going otherwise.
Exactly. Now, this is a little bit less suspicious than it's going to seem at first, but it does still give you an idea of how Trump is running this thing. And a lot of people are starting to think that this entire campaign might simply be like a graft opportunity, a con opportunity. So Trump spent over $400,000 to rent out Mar-a-Lago, his Palm Beach club, almost $400,000 to his fleet of private jets, $30,000 at his international golf club, $35,000 at his national golf club, which shows that he is more focused on America than the rest of the world. So that's consistent with his philosophy. Mm-hmm. And $72,000 in rent on Trump Tower. Now, after looking into this, you do actually have to pay if you use your own resources. You can't simply take advantage of what you already have. And yet, he is apparently choosing to put all this money into his own properties, his own businesses, the ones that haven't yet gone bankrupt. And considering the fact that a lot of the money that he donated to his campaign was actually in the form of loans, and someday could be paid for by regular donations, in the end, this could end up simply having been a multi-million-dollar stimulus package for his businesses.
So understand, he loans out the $45 million to his campaign, but $6 million of that goes into Trump properties, including any Trump water at events, okay? Mm-hmm. And then charging the campaign for it, which then will come back. Remember, this is an old trick. Sarah Palin starts her own PAC and then buys all of her own books through the PAC, and then she keeps the money for the books. Amazing. And then the people who donated to the PAC are out their money, and it didn't really help anyone except Sarah Palin, who just funneled the money back into her own pocket. So this is an old trick. And so at some point, Trump's plan is to retire that debt by going to donors and saying, hey, I'm your candidate now. I'm your Republican candidate. Make sure you finance my campaign. Go back, and candidates do this all the time, and repay that loan, right? And the campaign repays it to Donald Trump, but they already spent the $6 million on Donald Trump.
Oh, interesting how that works out.
Yeah. And
maybe he does know a little bit about business.
Yeah. No, he knows about scams. He knows how to
about scams.
Move the money around until it's in his own pocket.
Yeah.
But to be fair to them, look, so number one, as John pointed out, you do have to charge wherever you go. And if I have my property or some other guy's property, I'm more likely to use my property. I get it. If I was one of their donors, one of their very few donors, though, I would do a heavy audit to make sure they were paying the fair market price.
Fair amount, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I wouldn't take his word on it. And to be fair to Lewandowski, yes, that questionable Draper Sterling is close to his hometown, but we don't yet know if any money got funneled back to him. Mm-hmm. I would be surprised if anyone else picked Draper Sterling. That would be a really interesting coincidence. But just the fact that he picked Draper Sterling to do
that's true.
Maybe ads for them, maybe not.
Yeah,
doesn't mean that the money got funneled back to him. Again, it requires further investigation.
Yeah.
And you'll have to see if Draper Sterling actually did any ads.
Exactly. Reporters have reached out to Lewandowski saying this seems unethical, at least on its surface, and he responded saying, that's just like your opinion, man. I'm joking. I barely remember that movie. Anyway,
no, that was good. Excellent Lebowski quote there. Nicely done.
Some good references there to the Big Lebowski. Great movie. Now, since then, by the way, because Corey Lewandowski's name came up a lot in that. He has apparently been hired as a political analyst by CNN, and he is exclusive to CNN. Actually, we played the other night the clip of him on CNN right after he'd been fired, talking with Dana Bash. What will be really interesting to see is how much does he say on CNN in terms of Trump? How much insight does he offer? Or is he just simply going to do just straight political analysis? I'm assuming that he signed some sort of a non-disclosure agreement with the Trump campaign. But apparently, from what I was reading earlier, after he made that appearance on CNN, being interviewed by Dana Bash about being let go by the Trump campaign, he went from there right into a meeting with CNN executives. So it sounds like they were already planning to bring him on, or there had been some preliminary discussion, or I don't know, maybe a CNN executive just came up to him and right after that interview and said, figured out he's good on TV. Let's see. Walked up to him and said, "Hey, Corey, you have a minute? Want to talk some business?" So good for him, though. I mean, he certainly came out of this well. I mean, he got tossed off of a train that appears to be derailing anyway. So that's probably a good thing. I mean, look, he got Trump to being the presumptive nominee. So that's definitely a success. You can't say his time with the Trump campaign was in any way not successful. And then they showed him the door before the whole thing crashes. So, good for him. And now he's got a gig at CNN. So I think he came out of this pretty well. I don't know Corey personally, but I know a lot of people who know him who think highly of him. So I guess by proxy, I'm happy for him. All right, we'll be right back. One more segment to go.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Matt Connarton here. Join Jen Coffey and I twice a week for Matt Connarton Unleashed, a political talk show that's a little different than what you're used to. No liberal or conservative agenda here, just an honest dialogue about truth and how things really work in the world of politics. Matt Connarton Unleashed, every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness in action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Matt Connarton Unleashed. We're live as we cruise into our final segment tonight here on IPM Nation 2 and OTR FM. Don't forget, this week's television edition of Matt Connarton Unleashed is up and available now on the IPM Nation YouTube and Vimeo channels. You can also see the show live Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation. Let's see. There is an ad. Senator Mark Kirk, who is a Republican, one of the first Republican senators to really kind of throw Trump under the bus. Actually, it even says here, This is from HuffPost. Embattled GOP senator throws Trump under the bus in new ad. He's kind of a moderate Republican. I guess there is at least one left in the Senate, Republican of Illinois, and he had actually previously endorsed Trump and then publicly rescinded it, and did so pretty forcefully. Here's an ad. He has a new campaign ad. It's a 30-second ad, and I'm going to play this quickly. And he takes a swipe at Trump in the ad. Listen to this.
Long before his stroke, Mark Kirk was independent, ranked as one of the most bipartisan senators. After facing death, Kirk returned even more committed to serve Illinois. Mark was the first Republican to support a vote on President Obama's Supreme Court nominee. He's a leader on protecting a woman's right to choose. And Mark Kirk bucked his party to say Donald Trump is not fit to be commander-in-chief. Mark Kirk, courageous and independent.
I'm Mark Kirk, and I approve this message.
Clearly not an ad designed to appeal to the Republican base, but rather to mainstream voters. He's, as he mentions in the ad too, he's pro-choice, and he it says right in the ad, Trump is not fit to be president in Mark Kirk's estimation. Let's see. It also says here, the Chicago Tribune confirms that this 30-second spot will be part of a large ad buy to the tune of about $230,000 in broadcast time for the week-long buy and another $35,520 in cable TV time in Chicago. The ad, titled Even More, aims to present Kirk as an independent-minded, bipartisan legislator. Yeah, it also mentions Merrick Garland. He, Obama's pick for the Supreme Court. Kirk said there should be there should be hearings to potentially confirm him. Let's see. Among other things, it points to his pro-choice bona fides and his support for a Senate hearing on President Barack Obama's Supreme Court nominee, Merrick Garland, like I just mentioned. But most notably, it takes great care to mention his opposition to Trump over a parade of floating headlines. Excuse me. The ad's narrator intones, quote, and Mark Kirk bucked his party to say that Donald Trump is not fit to be commander-in-chief, unquote. There's another politician who is conspicuously not named in the ad. Kirk's opponent in his re-election bid, Representative Tammy Duckworth, Democrat of Illinois. In 2010, Kirk squeaked out a win over then Illinois State Treasurer Alexei Giannoulis to reach the Senate. Duckworth is a bona fide political superstar, albeit one who is currently dogged by a civil lawsuit alleging other various ethics violations. I didn't know about that. There aren't likely to be many Republican incumbents, especially vulnerable incumbents, who openly disparage their party's nominee in this fashion. However, the particulars of Kirk's race, deep blue state, popular Democratic opponent, incumbent who won by a thin margin in a wave election, probably makes slagging Trump in public an essential part of the calculus. So that is something to always keep in mind. I mean, is he, on the one hand, part of me wants to say, well, good for him. It's pretty courageous of him. He's willing to stand up and say, no, I don't like our party's nominee, and I don't think he's fit to be commander-in-chief. But then, of course, as is so often the case, there are underlying motivations for why he may want to take a swipe at Trump like that and distance himself from Trump. One of the things that's going to be very interesting as this whole thing continues is, by this whole thing, I mean the campaign, the presidential campaign, is how Republicans who are up for re-election continue to sort of react to Trump. How many embrace him, how many actively do like Mark Kirk did and try to distance themselves from him, how many just try to ignore him. And by the way, I think that's what you're going to see by far the most of, because these Republicans are terrified of Trump having a horrific down ballot effect, and he's going to no matter what. 2016 is going to be absolutely disastrous for the Republicans. Absolutely awful. That's my prediction. I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. I'm pretty sure most Republicans know that. Senator Lindsey Graham, several weeks ago, I played audio on the show of him going on Morning Joe and saying, yeah, we're probably going to lose big in 2016. You know, there's just no getting around it. It's going to be rough. You know, Trump has not only damaged the Republican Party, like I've been saying, he's taken a hatchet to it. So, let's see. This is from, before we run out of time, of course, from rightwingwatch.org. Rick Wiles praises Donald Trump's extraordinary humility. Yeah, I've talked a lot on the show about how these Christian conservatives have been, tying themselves into pretzels, trying to, endorse and support Trump. It says here, among religious right leaders meeting with Donald Trump on Tuesday was Rick Wiles, the far-right radio host who uses his daily True News program to push bizarre conspiracy theories and extremist screeds. Wiles said he was blown away by Trump's appearance, hailing him as a very humble man and very presidential. He said, quote, "He talked and acted like a president. Very respectful, very thoughtful. I, quite frankly, was very impressed by him as a person, as a man," unquote. Wiles added that Trump came across as, quote, "calm, respectful, very professional CEO. I believe that I saw the next president of the United States. I think Donald Trump is going to be very, very friendly to the evangelical Christian community of the United States of America. I'm coming back with a different perspective about Donald Trump. I didn't have a negative perspective to start with, but I'm seeing him today in a much better light," unquote. I'm reminded of when George W. Bush looked into the soul of Vladimir Putin. Remember that? Let's see. Glenn Beck says, this is also from rightwingwatch.org. Glenn Beck is always fun. We're the civil rights leaders of today, not those absolute clowns like John Lewis. So the mention of John Lewis, of course, is in reference to the sit-in that the Democrats staged in the House regarding gun control. And it looks like, by the way, there is moderate Republicans like Susan Collins of Maine are pushing something of a compromise on this involving the terrorist watch list, and the no-fly list. But, personally, I think this is all, it's all a bunch of showmanship and politicalization of what went on in Orlando, of course. More gun control certainly would not have stopped what happened in Orlando. And none of this will do any good. But the Democrats, of course, have to look like they're doing something. But it says here, Glenn Beck was predictably unimpressed by Democratic lawmakers who launched a sit-in on the floor of the House yesterday demanding a vote on gun control legislation. On his radio show today, Beck blasted Representative John Lewis, a civil rights icon who was one of the leaders of the effort, as a clown, and declared that if people such as himself it was people such as himself who are the true civil rights leaders of today. Now, what's interesting about that is it's one thing to disagree with John Lewis on the gun control issue, and I disagree with John Lewis on the gun control issue. But then for Beck to say, I'm a civil rights leader of today, here, let's play. We have time. We'll play this
What
audio.
happened yesterday? The people like John Lewis, who is a civil rights icon. The guy really is a hero, marching with Martin Luther King.
Okay. Well,
what he put up with, what he did in the 1960s is amazing. He has become a clown. This has made these people, these civil rights leaders, into absolute clowns. What was he marching for? He was marching for rights that are guaranteed to all men under the...
Let me stop here for a second, because I don't necessarily disagree with this part. I get what he's saying, and he does give credit to John Lewis, well-deserved credit, but to then turn around and call into question his actions today or over the last couple of days with the sit-in. I do think that part is completely fair. But let's get to the part where Beck calls himself a civil rights leader.
The Constitution.
As he likes
they
to do.
They were just asking, obey the Constitution.
That was it.
Okay? Civil rights. That the people out in the public have rights, and the government was there to protect those rights. What are they doing right now? Right now, they are sitting in to take people's rights away.
That's
now,
true.
We're not even just talking about the Second
Amendment. I agree with them here.
It's not just taking away the rights of the Second Amendment. And that's what nobody understands. Because John McCain was doing this in the Senate yesterday. John McCain there's no one who is an actual civil rights leader. ACLU, do you know the ACLU is against what the Democrats are doing right now? Who are the civil rights leaders? I've said this for a long time, and people make fun of us. We're the civil rights leaders. We're the civil rights leaders of today. They have discredited themselves, and they are dismissed.
Right. Okay. Well, now, what's funny about that is I assume what he means by that is we're the civil rights leaders of today because we're trying to protect the Second Amendment. Well, if you want to take credit for trying to protect the Second Amendment, fine, yes. That's something where I agree with conservatives, and they are trying to protect the Second Amendment. But I think it's a stretch for Glenn Beck to call himself a civil rights leader. Yes, they want to protect the Second Amendment, but they're also completely freaked out by gays having the right to marry. They're all in on transphobia and all that. So I think to try to pick up that mantle of being the modern civil rights leaders is a bit of a stretch there, Glenn.